What's going on, my fellow basketball sickos? The Minnesota Timberwolves are going to the Western Conference Finals. This is a statement that I never thought would come out of my mouth at the start of this season. They just defeated the defending champs in an epic Game 7 that capped off an extreme roller coaster ride of a series. Going in, I thought it was going to be a complete coin flip and a complete toss-up, and honestly thought it could go either way, and that's exactly how it turned out to be, considering it went down to the final minutes of a Game 7. But getting to that point did not play out in any sort of way that I would have expected. From the start of this series, things got very weird and were very unexpected. It was not so much game one that was surprising, because I thought that it would be one of the best games of the series, because it usually is in these type of matchups between two great teams. Game two was when things started to get really wild. After winning game one, a young, and I want to highlight that, a young Minnesota Timberwolves team, because oftentimes when a young team wins a big game, they tend to have letdowns in the following game and the games after. But they came in and completely blew the doors off of that gym, and completely blew out the Nuggets in game two. They dominated the game in from start to finish in every aspect of the game, and they had the Nuggets entire team just completely rattled. Coach Malone blew a gasket and had a failed attempt at trying to get thrown out of the game. It looked like he was trying to pull one of those stunts where he blows his lid and gets ejected, gets a tech, and that gets the team fired up, and they respond to that. And this was a complete failure at that. It failed miserably because they did not respond well at all. It actually had the complete opposite effect, and it caused the entire team to lose their cool, which eventually caused Jamal Murray to throw a towel and to throw a heat pad at the ref, which should have gotten him suspended. And by the way, but that's a topic for another day that I'll save for another video. But it looked like the Nuggets were completely outmatched physically, mentally, and athletically in game two. They had absolutely no answers to what the Wolves were doing to them, and that just led to them losing their minds in that game. And it was after that game that everybody in the world just started to write off the Nuggets and talking about a sweep. They were talking about all kinds of crazy stuff, and is Jokic the best player in the world, all that kind of crazy stuff. And while I fully understand where they were coming from because of the way those first two games looked, I was not one of those people that wrote them off, because I know better than to write off champions. I never will count out a champion, especially not a defending champion. So I knew games 3 and 4 were going to be absolute battles, but I'll be honest and say that I did not think that the Nuggets were going to go in and win both games 3 and 4. But just like the rest of the series, as soon as we thought the series was going one way, it went the complete opposite way. So the Nuggets went to Minnesota and tied the series 2-2 and gained home court advantage back. And then in game five, Denver kind of controlled things from start to finish, and they looked like the defending champions that they are, and it looked like they were just too talented, just too experienced for this Minnesota team once things got kind of serious in this series. But again, just as soon as people thought they had this series figured out, game six happened. This might have been the most shocking game of them all. The Wolves came out facing elimination and beat the Nuggets by 45 points. Let me say that again, because it still doesn't seem right when I say it. They beat them by 45 points in a playoff game. And then that leads us to game seven that fit right into the craziness of this series. So the start of this game looked like most of the game sevens that we see, and how they always look. Neither team was making shots, and you could tell that everybody on the floor was tight. So Denver clearly, you could tell, made it their game plan to blitz and send doubles and every time he catch the ball, and no matter where he caught the ball. So he could not get in any kind of rhythm. He probably should have been a little bit more aggressive in that first half, but he was just making the right play, hoping that his teammates would get going early and make some shots. But this did not happen in the first half, and however, it did eventually pay off in the second half, later on in the second half and into the fourth quarter. But on the other hand, Minnesota's game plan was clearly to not let Michael Porter Jr., KCP, and Aaron Gordon do anything, and they wanted to make Jokic and Murray be the only scorers and do all the scoring for the Nuggets, and that's exactly what happened. Those other guys only scored 19 points combined in this game, which is not the usual Denver blueprint. However, Murray did take advantage of this game plan in the first half. He scored 24 points and carried them to a 15-point lead at the break. And then coming into the third quarter, all the broadcasts started showing that the largest halftime deficit to be erased was 11 by the Warriors. So everything was pointing towards this game just being a complete wrap, and the Nuggets moving on to the Western Conference Finals. And then on top of that, the Nuggets came out to start the third quarter, and they pushed the lead up to 20, and that's when it really started to look like it was over. But that's when everything changed. Anthony Edwards, who was struggling to get anything going offensively, decided that he was going to take the challenge of guarding Jamal Murray, and he did a great job of that and slowed him down in the second half. And as he said post-game, I'm sure most of you have seen the video, he had him in handcuffs, is the phrase he used. So he really took that challenge, and it was cool to see him take that challenge. He also offensively made the adjustment of playing faster off the catch and making quicker decisions, because in the first half, he was being indecisive and holding the ball too long, which allowed the double to get to him, and then it allowed everybody in the back to kind of load up and help. But although he finally did start to play better and finally did get some shots to go, it was his teammates who rose to the occasion and got them back in this game. This was one of those games where everybody that touched the floor provided some kind of play and contributed to the comeback in some way and down the stretch of this game. And then once it got close in the third, all the pressure just shifted to Denver, and even through the TV, watching on the TV, I could just feel the nervous energy that was in that building, and I know the players felt it too. And then as the game just continued to progress into the fourth quarter, Jokic started settling. I don't know if he got tired or what, because he was also missing some box outs on the defensive end, but this was the most jump shots I've seen him shoot in a while. It looked to me like he was tired and settling and just done with going and banging in the post with those big bigs and Cat and Naz Reid and Gobert. But even as they slowed down Murray and Jokic and held the others to 19 points, like I said, they still had to make tons of plays themselves down the stretch on the offensive end. And to me, that started with Cat. He was the MVP of this game for most of it, making big shot after big shot, going all the way back to the first half where it had gotten to 15. The lead had got to 15, like 3 minutes left, and he had a three and a turnaround fadeaway in the short corner that got it back to 10, and that just kind of settled them down a little bit. Even though it got back to 15 at halftime, that kept it from getting to 25 and the game being over at halftime. But he was also very good on defense. Him and Naz Reid played some of the best defense I have seen played on Jokic. They, to me, did a way better job than Gobert did at any point in this series. And while I'm speaking about Naz Reid, he came in. There was a late sub where he came in for Cat late in the game, and I was kind of questioning like, oh, what are they doing? You might want to go ahead and finish this one out. And then he came in and made some huge plays. He had that huge block on Jokic, and then he had that putback dunk that was really a big momentum play that kind of shifted the game a little bit. Then there was also Mike Conley, who was made some very timely shots in this game. Jaden McDaniels had a very, very quiet and efficient 23 points that were all huge, and they needed every one of them. But the moment I knew this game was over was when Rudy Gobert went to the free throw line and made 4 straight free throws, and then he banged in that fadeaway jumper with the shot clock running out. When that happened, it felt like there was no way the Wolves were going to lose this game, because they clearly had the basketball gods on their side. And even Kat and Anthony Edwards said in their post game press conference that they acknowledged that this moment was the moment they knew that they had them, and that all the luck and all the things of just the ball bouncing your way, the basketball guys, whatever you want to call it, was in their favor. So they completed the 20-point comeback. It was 58-38 at some point in the third, and they outscored them 60-32 the rest of the way. And they somehow won this game with Ant going 6 for 24 from the field, which was really, really impressive. So, like I said, the Timberwolves, they shocked the world and sent the defending champ Nuggets packing and are moving on to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in a very, very long time. So what does this mean for both of these teams? So starting with the Nuggets, first of all, I did not like the way they handled this loss, especially Coach Malone in the press conferences. Obviously, I know emotions are running high after losing, but the way that he embarrassed that reporter was completely uncalled for. He was the main one last year when they won the championship, doing the trash talking at the parade, in the ceremony, and showboating last year after they won. And I personally had no problem with it, because I'm the type of guy that when you win, you get to talk. So I had no problem with it. I know some people were saying that it was unprofessional and it was insufferable the way he was acting, but like I said, I have no problem. You win, let them have their moment. You get to talk. It's always been that simple for me. But if you're gonna act like that when you do win, you can't turn around and act like this when you lose and just completely lose your head and lose your cool. So I didn't like what I saw from him. But actual basketball wise, they simply got beat and got outplayed in this series. I wouldn't necessarily say that Minnesota is a better team. They just were better in this series, and that'll get you beat. And then, Michael Porter Jr., who played lights out in the Lakers series, was nowhere to be found, and mostly due to the Wolves making a concerted effort to take him out of the game. KCP was not great. Gordon had his moments, especially games 3 and 4. One of them, he went 11 for 12 from the field, which is crazy for him, but he wasn't consistent, and he was up and down all throughout this series. And then it definitely became obvious to me that they miss Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. I said it going into the season, and I even said it wouldn't show up until the playoffs that they were going to miss those two guys. And people were commenting and telling me that Christian Braun and Peyton Watson were going to step up and fill those roles. Well, I got some news for you. Peyton Watson, if you look at what he did in this series, he finished the series with a bunch of DMPs. So clearly, Coach Malone did not trust him, and Jokic and none of them trusted him to be able to play at this level of basketball. So I seemed to be right when I said that they would miss him, and it finally did show up. And then the main problem was that Jamal Murray he did not play to that level that he did during their run last year. He regressed to the mean, and they wouldn't have even won last year if he did not play out of his mind and way above his norm. He was inefficient all playoffs, and obviously the injury to the calf probably had a lot to do with that. But he just was not good all playoffs. He just was kind of average and inefficient and put up some decent numbers, but it wasn't anywhere to what we expect to see from him in the playoffs and that he's proven he can do. But with all that said, the Nuggets are not going anywhere anytime soon. They can retool, they can reshape their roster if they want to. They have plenty of options, so they will be in the mix for a long time as long as Jokic and Murray are together and as long as Jokic is in his prime. So now let's move on to the Timberwolves. They proved to me that they are a legit championship team. I was kind of unsure about them after that Suns series because of how many flaws I knew that the Suns team had, but they just took down the Nuggets and are going to the Western Conference Finals, where they have a great chance, in my opinion, of beating the Dallas Mavericks and going on to the NBA Finals. So Anthony Edwards is emerging right in front of our eyes, and he has that dog in him, and it's spreading throughout this team, and even going into people like Cat, who I never thought I would say that about, who never thought I would say he has any dog in him, but their defense is just legit. It's honestly one of the best defenses I have seen in my lifetime, and some of their individual performances and individual team performances have been some of the best performances I've seen as a defense, as a collective in a long time. And I even did a couple film studies breaking them down, and I cannot wait for this matchup versus the Mavs, who also have a championship level defense. It will probably be some ugly basketball for a lot of people, but I'm a bit of a defense geek, so I love good team defense and good individual defense, so I'm super excited for it, and I cannot wait to see Ant and Cat take on Luka and Kyrie. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out some more of our content.